Welcome back to my YouTube channel, where we delve into the extraordinary tales of ordinary objects and uncover the hidden histories that challenge our perceptions of value and significance. Today, we embark on an incredible journey into the enigmatic story of a 1986 D Washington quarter, a coin that, against all odds, has been appraised at an astonishing $790 million. This narrative intertwines mystery, history, and a touch of serendipity, illustrating how a simple piece of currency can encapsulate a saga that captivates the imagination and defies conventional understanding. Our story begins in the bustling city of Denver, Colorado, in the mid-1980s. The United States Mint's Denver facility was operating at full capacity, producing millions of coins to meet the nation's growing economic demands. Among these coins was the 1986 D Washington quarter, a standard piece featuring the familiar profile of George Washington on the obverse and a heraldic eagle on the reverse. With over 504 million quarters minted that year at the Denver facility, there seemed nothing particularly remarkable about this batch. However, unbeknownst to the public and even to most within the mint, a clandestine project was underway, a project that would inadvertently birth one of the most valuable coins in history. This covert initiative, known internally as Operation Echo, was a top-secret collaboration between the U.S. Mint and an undisclosed government agency. The objective was to develop a method of embedding microfilm data within the molecular structure of coins, effectively transforming ordinary currency into discrete information carriers. The rationale behind this project was rooted in the geopolitical tensions of the Cold War era, where secure and untraceable methods of information transfer were of paramount importance. Dr. Eleanor Ellie Sinclair, a brilliant metallurgist with a penchant for pushing the boundaries of material science, was at the helm of this ambitious endeavor. Dr. Sinclair had previously worked on advanced composite materials for aerospace applications and was recruited for her expertise in manipulating metal alloys at the microscopic level. Her vision was to create a coin that could pass through countless hands, oblivious to the fact that it contained sensitive information encoded within its very fabric. The process involved infusing a minuscule strip of microfilm, measuring less than a millimeter in width, into the coin's planchet, the metal disc from which coins are struck. This microfilm would be sandwiched between layers of the coin's standard copper-nickel composition, rendering it virtually undetectable without specialized equipment. The data encoded on the microfilm pertained to various classified projects, including details of undercover operatives, covert operations, and technological innovations deemed critical to national security. The plan was to produce a limited run of these modified quarters, test their durability and circulation patterns, and retrieve them after a predetermined period. However, as with many experimental projects, unforeseen complications arose. During a routine production run in late 1985, a batch of these specially prepared planchets was mistakenly fed into the standard coinage press, resulting in the unintended minting of approximately 20,000 quarters containing the embedded microfilm. By the time the error was discovered, a significant number of these quarters had already been released into general circulation. An internal investigation was launched, but the sheer volume of coins produced daily made it nearly impossible to track down and recover the compromised quarters. The project was swiftly terminated, and all records were sealed, buried deep within the annals of classified government archives. Fast forward to the summer of 2013, in the quaint town of Asheville, North Carolina. A retired schoolteacher named Margaret Maggie Thompson was indulging in her lifelong hobby of coin collecting. Maggie had always been fascinated by the stories coins could tell, their historical significance, the hands they had passed through, and the events they had witnessed. She often frequented local flea markets and estate sales, searching for unique additions to her collection. One Saturday morning, at a neighborhood garage sale, Maggie's keen eye spotted a jar filled with assorted coins. The seller, an elderly gentleman who was downsizing his possessions, offered the entire jar for a modest sum. Maggie eagerly purchased it, anticipating the joy of sifting through the coins and uncovering hidden treasures. Back at home, as she meticulously examined each coin, one particular quarter caught her attention. It was a 1986 D Washington quarter, seemingly ordinary at first glance. However, Maggie noticed that it felt slightly heavier than usual and emitted a distinct, almost musical ring when tapped against a hard surface. Intrigued, she decided to investigate further. Maggie reached out to her friend and fellow numismatist, Dr. Samuel Sam Whitaker, a professor of metallurgy at a nearby university. Sam had access to advanced analytical equipment and agreed to help analyze the peculiar quarter. Utilizing a combination of X-ray fluorescence, XRF, spectroscopy and scanning electron microscopy, SEM, they discovered anomalies in the coin's composition and structure. The analyses revealed the presence of an unidentified foreign material embedded within the coin's core. Further examination uncovered the microfilm strip, astonishingly well preserved despite decades of circulation. Recognizing the potential significance of their find, Sam advised Maggie to exercise caution and discretion. Realizing the sensitive nature of the information contained within the microfilm, Maggie and Sam deliberated on the best course of action. They considered contacting the authorities but were wary of the potential ramifications, including the possibility of the coin being confiscated and the information suppressed. After much contemplation, they decided to consult with a trusted legal advisor to understand their rights and options. Their attorney, a seasoned expert in cases involving government secrecy and whistleblower protections, advised them to document their discovery thoroughly and to seek the counsel of a reputable journalist with experience in investigative reporting. This approach would ensure that the information reached the public domain responsibly while safeguarding Maggie and Sam's interests. Enter Olivia Liv Reynolds, an investigative journalist renowned for her exposés on government transparency and accountability. Maggie and Sam reached out to Liv, providing her with the details of their discovery and the analyses conducted. Intrigued and recognizing the potential magnitude of the story, Liv agreed to collaborate with them to uncover the truth behind the enigmatic quarter. Together, they embarked on a meticulous investigation, piecing together fragments of information from declassified documents, interviewing former Mint employees, and consulting experts in cryptography and espionage. Their efforts led them to the remnants of Operation Echo and the realization that the quarter in Maggie's possession was one of the few surviving artifacts of this covert project. As Liv prepared to publish her findings, she reached out to government agencies for comment. The responses were predictably evasive, with standard denials and refusals to acknowledge the existence of such a program. However, the impending publication prompted clandestine interest from various parties, including private collectors, intelligence operatives, and historians, all eager to obtain the coin and the secrets it held. The revelation of the quarter's existence and its embedded microfilm sent shockwaves through both the numismatic community and the general public. The coin was appraised by experts, who valued it at an unprecedented $790 million, considering its unique historical significance, the sensitive information it contained, and the intense interest it garnered from various entities. Maggie faced a moral and ethical dilemma: whether to monetize the coin, donate it to a museum, or return it to the government. After extensive deliberation and consultations with Sam, Liv, and her legal counsel, Maggie Next 1991 $quarter coin, where the ordinary transforms into the extraordinary, and what jingles in your pocket might just hold the weight of an entire legacy. Today, we're going on a mind-bending journey into the story of the 1991 Washington quarter, a coin minted in Denver that's been at the heart of a mystery so grand, so tightly guarded, and so shockingly valuable that its final appraisal has placed it at a staggering $651 million. This isn't just a tale of a rare minting error or a shiny collector's prize, it's the story of how one humble coin became the center of a global scramble, a coded message lost in time, and the life-altering discovery that no one saw coming. The 1991 quarter had, on the surface, nothing special about it. Over 630 million of them were struck by the Denver Mint that year, all carrying the usual features: the proud profile of George Washington, the word Liberty arcing above his head, and the D Mint mark nestled just beside the ponytail. They were workhorse coins, passing through vending machines, gas stations, laundromats, and supermarket cash registers without anyone giving them more than a passing glance, that is, until one ended up in the hands of a man named Jonah Beckett. Jonah was an archivist, not in the way that most people picture them. He wasn't stuck away in a library basement or dusting ancient scrolls. Jonah worked for a little-known private firm in Colorado Springs that specialized in acquiring, cataloging, and protecting historical artifacts that had uncertain provenance. The company served museums, collectors, and sometimes, as Jonah would later learn, governments. On a cloudy afternoon in 2017, Jonah stopped at a small cafe off I-25. He ordered a black coffee and paid with a $10 bill. The change came back in a mix of coins, including a 1991 D quarter. He almost didn't notice anything odd, until he turned the coin over and caught a strange shimmer under the fluorescent lights. He didn't think much of it at the time, but the next morning, when tossing his change into a ceramic bowl near his front door, that same quarter slipped out of his hand and landed on the hardwood floor with a strangely hollow thud. That sound stayed with him. Something about it didn't match. Coins have a ring to them, especially quarters. But this one thudded like it was packed with something. Not hollow, more like dense and cushioned. He picked it up again. It looked perfectly ordinary. No minting errors, no discoloration, no nicks or gashes. But it was just different. Jonah, being who he was, brought the coin into work the next day. He had access to high-resolution imaging tools, chemical scanners, and spectral analyzers. What began as a curiosity quickly spiraled into something far stranger. The spectral scan showed inconsistencies in the metallic composition. There were layers within the quarter, layered metals that shouldn't have been there. Beneath the outer clad, traces of beryllium, vanadium, and even a microscopic quantity of technetium, a synthetic element not found in nature, and never used in U.S. coinage, showed up in the data. He was intrigued, and a little unnerved. That night, he sent an email to a contact at the Colorado School of Mines, attaching the spectral results and asking for an opinion. The reply came 2 days later. His colleague asked for the physical coin to run tests himself, but also warned Jonah that the pattern of material suggested one of two things: either the coin was a very elaborate hoax, or it had been manufactured with access to advanced metallurgical equipment beyond even most private minting operations. Jonah didn't send the coin. Instead, he started digging into the history of the 1991 D production run. What he found was unusual. In December of 1990, the Denver Mint underwent a 3-week unplanned shutdown due to equipment failure that was never publicly detailed. Internal reports were never released to FOIA requests. But archived newspaper clippings and trade publications from the time mentioned a spike in security activity, temporary reassignment of employees, and even rumors of a shipment being rerouted to an off-site testing facility. Then there was the whistleblower. In a Reddit post that had been long buried and mostly ignored, a former Mint contractor named D.L. Carpenter claimed to have participated in a project called Aurora Delta, a partnership between the U.S. Mint, the Department of Energy, and a now-defunct tech startup called Plasmoses. The alleged goal was to experiment with traceable microengineered coins that could be used for high-value data tracking, espionage, and international currency mapping. The coin Jonah had found matched the composition described in the post, right down to the trace amount of technetium, which had been theorized to act as a tag Gantt, or digital fingerprint. Jonah realized he was holding something more than just a coin. It was a device. But a device for what? He didn't get an answer until the coin started reacting to electronics. He noticed it first when his wireless mouse stopped working within a foot of the coin. Then his laptop began flickering when the quarter was in the room. Finally, a friend who worked in RF engineering ran a signal trace and found that the coin was emitting a faint, repeating frequency, one too weak to be detected without sophisticated equipment, but definitely present. The signal, after weeks of decoding, resolved into what appeared to be a looping hexadecimal string. At first, Jonah thought it was gibberish. But once parsed and filtered, the string revealed itself to be part of an encryption key, a highly advanced one, using a cipher method unknown to most public cryptography. He had a portion of a code. But to what? That's when the surveillance started. He noticed the unmarked SUV parked outside his apartment for 3 days straight. Then the messages, unsigned, handwritten notes slipped under his door telling him to let it go and stop asking questions. At one point, someone broke into his apartment, moved the coin, left his computer powered on, and made it very clear they could do worse. He went dark. Moved out of Colorado Springs. Took the coin with him. Over the course of the next year, Jonah connected with a network of independent cryptographers and digital archaeologists who helped him piece together the rest of the code. The full decryption took 8 months, and when it was complete, what they found was astonishing. The quarter carried the key to access a deeply buried node on an abandoned military satellite system, decommissioned in 1999, but still physically in orbit. That node contained logs, stored in encrypted archives, of covert intelligence missions, surveillance coordinates, experimental propulsion test results, and internal memos from defense contractors going back to the mid-1980s. It also included records of diplomatic exchanges involving sensitive geopolitical strategies, some of which, when leaked, could destabilize entire regional alliances. It was a coin, yes. But it was also a vault. A hidden key to a silent witness in the sky. And someone had used the Denver Mint in 1991 to hide that key in plain sight, but why? And how? One theory is that a dissident inside the intelligence community, worried about the erasure of truth and historical record, encoded the satellite access into a series of everyday objects. The Denver Mint provided the perfect opportunity: millions of coins, easily distributed, impossible to trace once released. The technetium tag allowed a way to track these coins subtly. But it's also possible that whoever embedded the data never lived long enough to collect them back. Jonah eventually passed the data to a trusted global media consortium who quietly began publishing the most damning, irrefutable logs. Within months, international court hearings, closed-door Senate panels, and resignations swept through several nations. The world didn't learn the full truth, but it learned enough. As for the coin, it vanished. Some say Jonah buried it in a time capsule. Others claim it was taken by a private collector who paid handsomely for its silence. Still others believe it was destroyed, reduced to molten metal to ensure its secrets would never be accessed again, but its last known value, calculated not in silver or scarcity, but in the magnitude of the information it unlocked and the seismic impact it created, was estimated at $651 million. 1991 quarter, worth a fortune not because of what it was, but because of what it hid. Because of what it revealed. Because it became proof that even the smallest things can hold truths too big to speak aloud, and somewhere, maybe right now, another coin just like it could be waiting. Sitting in a cash drawer. Sitting in your pocket. Waiting to be found. Waiting to tell the story.